Hey, Moran here, and I am at the EMAPTH 2021 Sales Conference in beautiful Santa Barbara at the Ritz-Carlton, which is like way over, I'm afraid I don't get full appreciation for it. It's so, I grew up sort of as a Taco Bell and not quite Motel 6, but maybe Hampton Inn, right? So it's pretty cool to be here and say I'm here. And it's been a great day, so I do want to tell you something. So we had this morning, we had 3 keynotes. We had Malcolm Gladwell was the first up, and he was amazing. And then we had Dan Matson, who's the CEO of Leisure Care, and he was amazing. And then we had Casey Jackson, and he was amazing. And he doesn't know that I'm going to tell him this, and I'm going to try to see if I can make him turn a little bit red. But at lunchtime, I was sitting with some people, and I said, so which of the keynotes did you like? This is a true story. And they said it was yours.
Hey.
They did. They said that they felt like they got the most value in terms of being able to be better at what they do in helping residents to make a better job. And so as I told you last night, I think you sometimes devalue what you do. So we're going to start with kind of a little bit of he already knows the first question I'm going to say, and so we're going to see where this goes exactly. So Casey basically believes that virtually every one of you who are selling senior living are doing it wrong, and I told you that when you guys do this discovery stuff where you pepper people with questions, that you've got it all wrong, right? Is that what you believe? Or some maybe not quite. Maybe that's a little strong.
It might be a little strong. First thing I always own is that I'm not part of the industry, so that makes it easier from an outsider perspective. But like I talked about, I'm in the addiction world and the mental health world and family therapy and all these different things, and I've really developed expertise on behavior change. So most of us are developing the medical model, which we gather tons of information. So when I listen to the discovery process, the majority of discovery information is not going to be used. And mostly from a sales perspective, it's where's the pain point, or where's the selling point, or where's the conversion point, which is fine from a sales perspective. But when I look from a behavior change perspective, it's just gobs of information that's not functional to help people resolve their ambivalence. And my expertise is how do you help people that are struggling, kind of the middle of the funnel, how do you help them resolve their ambivalence in a way that their behavior aligns with their values? And you can give me their entire history and their story and all the wonderful things they've done, and that has nothing that's going to change where their ambivalence level is. So for me, when I listen to how much time is spent, and then how it feels like these processes take 5 months, 6 months, 8 months, 2 years for conversion, it's just like, well, there's just, the first thing I look at is you're just gathering data that you're not using that's going to be beneficial to resolve ambivalence. So that's from my world, I look at that process and I just think, wow, this is just a lot of data that most of you probably aren't going to use, and it's what you use to build relationship sales, which is just such an evolution from the thing it used to be. So I get it, but from my worldview, it's just like, well, there's a lot of stuff you have to use.
So do you think that there are better ways to build relationships than how we do discovery?
Yeah, and I'd even take it further. I mean, that was the whole point of my session, was that beyond relationship sales, can you use empathy to improve outcomes? The data is pretty clear that you can. You and I don't need to have a relationship for me to help you resolve your ambivalence so you make decisions that are in your best interest. Almost every industry in healthcare and behavioral health is build trust, build relationship, build trust, build relationship. But decisions are made when you're laying in bed at night staring at the ceiling going, is this really where I want to be? And as soon as people jump into your brain at that moment in time, it forces you to rethink how you're thinking, or to get on the defensive, or explain why you're stuck. So when you look at it from a physics perspective, a human dynamics perspective, every time you have to pay attention to me, you're not paying attention to your own ambivalence that needs to be resolved to move forward in the behavior change process. So it literally has the potential to increase discord or tension or resistance. Or the flip side is you're telling me things that you want me to hear because you want to hurt my feelings. Any of that information is not beneficial for you resolving your ambivalence. Anything you have to deal with this energy going this direction. So I'm not saying that relationships are bad. I'm not saying building trust is bad. All I'm going to say is it's not going to help people resolve their ambivalence.
So this is really interesting, and because when I go looking to buy senior living, really when I go looking to buy virtually even anything, even if it were counseling, right?
Yeah.
I'm not looking to buy a relationship. I'm looking to solve a problem. And if we're talking at senior living, we're talking counseling.
Right.
They're emotional problems. It's some, they're senior living problem, partly physical, partly emotional. But there's emotional part. That's right.
Yeah.
So, having been a consumer, I remember going and looking at a senior living community where I walked into them and they did a great job of discovery of peppering me with all these questions. And I actually remember being really annoyed at it because it just felt like they were checking off a bunch of boxes and they were trying to, almost create a fake relationship. And I just had a problem I was trying to solve. And I wanted to know whether they could solve it, and they never actually got to that question for me, right? They never actually. So, but they're kind of, I'm sort of wandering here, right? But as I look at senior living consumers, they're really more than two, but sort of two from a practical standpoint. There's one where I've got an immediate problem I've got to solve. That mom can't stay home any longer, or she's got to get out of the hospital, or dad's wandering, and I've got to get him in someplace. So does it matter there?
It depends. I'm going to keep separating out. It depends if you want compliance or if you want behavior change. So if you want the situation resolved, you can place them. It doesn't mean it's in their best interest necessarily. It doesn't mean that they're going to stay in there. It doesn't mean they're not going to be combative, frustrated, or depressed after that conversion happens. So you're not getting behavior change. You're getting what I keep hearing is conversion. You convert it into a bed is filled. The person is getting services and resources they need. Which is, from a transactional perspective, I get the metrics, but from a humanistic perspective, how does that individual who just had their life commandeered by people, how does it feel to be inside of their skin? And so I think it depends on what outcome you're looking for in those situations.
Well, and it's really interesting to me because what you're really saying is that there are two ways you can get it moving, right? You can get somebody who you just sort of gets forced in, typically by a family member, or the other alternative is that they can come to the conclusion that it's in their best interest, which means they're probably going to be happier, they're going to live longer, they're going to be healthier, right?
Absolutely.
And this is a really interesting question to me because I focus a lot also on the human capital kind of thing. And so I think a lot of these things you're talking about really apply to how you work with your team members, right?
Yes.
So I can either say, you have to go take care of those 10 residents, or I can create an environment where somebody says, I'm really pumped up about going and taking care of those 10 residents, right?
Yes.
So I want to go a little bit deeper into how do I do this? And let's start on the prospect side. I sort of feel badly, except that my family knows what I do, right? So I'm sort of picking on my dad and stepmom, and I think Dad would sort of be ready to go because he recognizes his physical frailties and that he's not going to be able to get out into his garden, but it would radically change her life.
Yes.
But I still think there's some reasons why she might go do that because she would have somebody to kind of take care of Dad's physical needs, and she could still go out to her bowling league and her other things she's doing, those kinds of things. I don't know for sure, but how do I actually? What's that conversation look like? Maybe we can, I don't know whether this is too bold a question to ask because you weren't prepared. I'm a prospect, and so what would you do with me? Can we role play it a little bit?
Sure. And so there is a very specific method. What I teach is something that's internationally taught or known, motivational interviewing, but really it's fundamentally a method of communicating. So what I'm going to do, and I have no problem role playing at all, but basically what it's going to be is first of all, I'm not going to be attached to your outcome other than helping you resolve your problems. So it's not me trying to convert a sale, it's not me trying to fix you or help you or solve anything. It literally is helping your brain get clear about how you feel. Because even when you talk about your dad's wife, the thing you're seeing in that situation is I guarantee you that there's days that she's feeling two ways about him moving there. So that's where my conversation would start. I don't care if I'm talking to your father about the same thing. There's days that he feels two ways about his moving situation. That to me is the source and center where you start from an MI-based conversation, either when they're not thinking about it, they don't want to think about it, but you know that there's something going on, but usually people don't want to think about it because they can feel that somebody else is attached and trying to get them to think a different way and make their own thing. So you're already, they're going to be on the defense. So I'm just going to lay out that structure, either when people don't want to talk about it, all you're trying to access is that internal dialogue.
So how do I deal, as a salesperson, I'm going to take a tangent here.
Yeah.
As a salesperson, how do I deal with this level? That has its own level of ambivalence, right? Yeah. Because on one hand, I do want to be a good human and help people. On the other hand, I've got a sales manager, a boss, an executive director, a regional
Absolutely.
who's saying, you know what, if you don't get 5 move-ins or 3 move-ins, you're out of here.
Yeah.
So how do I reconcile that?
Well, I would say as a salesperson, when you interview for a job, I would definitely ask the interviewing committee, do you really believe in your vision and mission statement? Because I'll help you with your vision and mission statement, but if this just is about sales, then I need to make a decision if that's what I want to do. But if you're really trying to enrich people's lives, if you want to match the right people with the right resources in the right communities, I would love to help you with that. But I would be thinking, as a salesperson, I need to be clear about who I'm working for.
Oh, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Okay, so now,
Okay.
So I come in.
Yep.
And I'm sort of going to put myself in my mom's.
Perfect.
When my mom's passed away, I knew she needed senior living, but I didn't know where to go and exactly what to do. So I'm walking in, mom's in the hospital, and pretty sure she needs senior living, and I kind of don't know. I think I know she needs it, but I don't know that for sure, and I certainly don't know which place to go.
Okay.
So, can you,
do you want me to communicate with you like the adult
like
child?
I'm like the adult child.
The adult child?
I'm the adult child. Yeah.
Perfect. Either way would be.
Sure.
Your mom or whatever's with you. And you're coming to me saying, Casey, this is my dilemma.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Here's my struggle.
Yeah, because it was my dilemma. I walked into 3 or 4 buildings, and actually I walked into one, I couldn't find parking, so I left. But that's another problem, another lesson, right? So anyway, yeah.
So what I'd start off, if this is literally what you just laid out there, it's like, no, and one of the things you're struggling with this is because it's hard on you to watch your mother decline.
That's true.
There is nothing fun about that, and there's nothing fun about walking into a hospital and seeing your mother in a state. You just don't picture your mother in that state. It's just hard. It's just hard to see her that stage of life, but you can't deny it. I mean, she is in the hospital bed and she is declining. But so this is hard on you as well, and you're trying to put yourself in your mom's shoes and going, "There's no way this is easy on her. She's been in our home for 25 years. She raised me there. She doesn't want to think about leaving, but she's not ignorant to the fact that things aren't the way that they used to be for her physically either." And so that's where both of you are struggling deeply on a very personal, emotional level about stage of life and how can I as a son orchestrate the best quality of life for her and support her independence and her autonomy in making decisions that are best for her. And those are things you guys are wrestling with.
Yeah, so that's all true. I guess the thing I'm not sure of right now is, for me, it's because I pretty much said we've come to the conclusion she needs senior living. I'm not sure whether it should be your community or one down the street or maybe a nursing home.
Yeah. So you want to make this decision. It's just what is going to meet my mother's needs and our needs best. Those are the things that you guys are really researching right now.
Yeah.
And you have some ideas of what that looked like, and you have some ideas of like what you're vehemently opposed to.
Yeah.
As far as that goes.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things you're vehemently opposed to, and what are some of the things that for you that like the deal breakers, and the one that would be like, there's the oasis in this desert, or there in this glut of potentials, that's the one that stands above. I mean, what are the core things for you that need to be there for you for your mother?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is that, so first off, she's not very communicative. She's got significant cognitive loss, right? And so mostly I want to make sure that there's two things, I guess, when it comes right down to it. I want to make sure there's people who are checking on a real regular basis. So I don't want somebody to come in and check once a day and then maybe come sling food at her or roll her into the dining room because she needs, she sort of needs somebody checking on them on a regular basis.
It's not just a head in bed.
Yeah, exactly.
It is your mother, and she needs to be taken care of in a way that you would want her taken care of, or the way you'd want to be taken care of if you were in that space.
Yeah. And so that's sort of the big thing, and I want her to be treated with dignity, and I know that, particularly, I know sometimes she can be frustrated. She wouldn't be that way normally, but with her, her mental decline, I'll give you, for instance, I've seen times where people came up to her and just touched her and she started screaming. And I worry that that'll intimidate your staff and they'll treat her badly.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with putting the money or the resources out. What it really comes down to you is that if she's going to be located anywhere, she needs to be part of a community or part of a family. They need to look at her not like somebody that's filling their bed, but this is your mother, and it's beyond the dignity, it's beyond the quality of life. It really has to be, my mom has special needs. My mom is my mom, and she's a living, breathing human being, and people need to accommodate that at this stage in her life and not react to it because it's their job. She needs to be part of where she feels safe, like she's part of a community, that she's part of a home. And that is going to be one of the most fundamental things that's important.
Yeah, and there's actually one other thing I want to I feel like it's really important I talk about is her husband's really devoted to her. He's actually living with us. And I expect that he's going to want to come and visit with her probably every day for 2 or 3 hours. And I want to kind of make sure that's going to be okay. It's not just, that I know he's not going to be a resident, but I kind of want him to be treated like he's important, like he's a resident. I mean, and honestly, it should be good for you guys, right? Because it means that he's watching her, so you don't necessarily need to during that period of time.
And it's almost irrelevant because what we're talking about is what's important to you and your family. It doesn't matter what this is what you're looking for with whatever community you're looking for. It doesn't matter what the community needs. It's what is your family, and that's what you're really assessing. Is we're looking for a place for my mom to be safe and secure and protected and happy and healthy, and we want to be able to integrate into that situation as a family.
One more thing I really want to ask you about, and that's that, what you've described that you guys will do, it sounds really good. I don't know if I trust you, though.
Why would you? Like, there's something about the proof is in the pudding kind of a thing. When you were talking about the health and safety and welfare of your mother, you should be that kind of a son that doesn't trust. You should be the kind of son that does your homework. You get a feel. You interview who you need to, because this is a major decision. This is more major than buying a car. This is more major than buying a bed or a unit. This is the health and welfare of your own mother. So you should go in, not only skeptical, but you should make sure that every question you have gets answered in a way that feels like it fits the culture of your family, that it fits the needs that you have as a son, that it fits the needs of what your dad needs as her husband. You can hear anything, and you can hear anything from any community or any facility. You as a family need to get clear, is this the kind of place that I want to stay? And those are the questions that until those are answered, you should not make a single move or commitment until you are so clear in your heart of hearts that this feels like this is the best decision for us.
Okay, that makes sense. But I guess the question I'm still trying to figure out is, what makes you guys better than those guys down across the street?
Yeah, those are things you get to figure out. If you want me to sell you something, I can sell you something, but that's not going to add to your trust. You're somebody who's already made a decision you're going to research, and there's significant questions you need answered. And I'll answer those questions to the best of my ability, but the difference between who has better carpet or who has better food, those are questions that you need to ask within your family. You should be finding those out in every community and finding out which one works best for you. If there's anything I can do to answer your questions so you feel like you're satiated in your decision-making process, that's the best I can do for you. Then it's going to come down to the proof is in the pudding. That's what you need to figure out.
Okay, guys, feels terrible, right? I mean, the idea that that somebody would come to you and say, tell me what makes it better. And when I shop building, I ask this all the time, and I've never had anybody say, well, you should just go figure it out. And yet that's kind of what you're saying, right?
Well, who do you want to come talk to again?
Yeah, that is the thing. That's the key, right? Because I'm going to get sold every place else, and I'm going to say, this guy didn't try to push me. He didn't try to sell me.
No.
So, Casey, this has been amazing. I appreciate it.
Good, absolutely.
This has been crazy good.
I should have spent more time discovering.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.